You okay? So this is one of my interviews, video interview, and we've got him, Mr. Boughey. Now listen, we had the luxury of having him down at our club when he was doing his charity events, collecting money for cancer. Great thing he was doing. Now, I presumed, like a lot of people might do, that he is very, very sport orientated. But listen, don't think this guy doesn't know how to make it work outside as well. Now, the interview, again, great pleasure for me. I get to pick the people who I grew up watching. And obviously from the Warrior days, we used to work with Chris Williams on the doors. He's another person I'm going to come and find. But Chris Boughey was just one of them gents of martial arts. On the occasions I did get to meet him, just so easygoing, no politics, he just loves training. So for me it was a natural person to get on for this next interview. And as you can see, he's not all about kicking, punching, sparring, taking trophies home, and he took a lot of them home. His self-defence techniques as well. In other words, an all-rounder. So guys, let's have a look at my interview with Mr. Boughey. Take a look at this. Okay, you're on Facebook. So that's, I told you in the intro we've got Mr. Boughey. I've had the pleasure of meeting him a few times. We've just had a good little chat now before we start. So I'd like to say thanks for coming along.
It's a pleasure, mate.
We'll keep out the stuff we've talked about secret.
Can't mention it.
No, nothing said. So we'll start at the beginning. It's where all the interviews should start. How did you get into martial arts? Who was your influences? And do you remember your very first class?
Yes, and yes. The very first 1977. I was 15, and yeah, my mates came down to my house and knocked on my door, clutching an advert for a kung fu class. Yeah. And they were the days that was it. All you had to do was advertise in the paper, and your clubs would just boom. It was the Bruce Lee era. It was the David Carradine sort of rice paper era. I thought I'll have a bit of that, I'll have a bit of a dragon on my arms and go down and try it. So we all went down. I didn't really know what I was going to expect, to be honest. And so we went down, about 15 of us, and dived into class, threw a kick, and I loved it.
From the very first
class? From the very first kick. I can't explain anymore. I never really was very good at football. I didn't like football much, honestly. And so this time I just threw and I thought, this is for me.
So your first influence on TV, mine was TV as well. I was a little later in the Karate Kid era, shamefully.
Yeah, my brother used to make me watch David Carradine, you know. I tried to turn over and give me a slap, so I thought I'd better learn something here, you know. So no, it was okay, it was good fun, and it had that, it gave us that mystique, didn't it, to the martial arts, which is gone now. Everybody knows what martial arts are now, but then it was like something secret, wasn't it, really?
So with me saying, what was your black belt? How long did it take you?
7 years, really. So it started with those guys, and then gradually they left, and I was left with myself and my good friend Alex Barrowman. So we sort of stuck through this. During this period, our instructors changed as well. From the first instructor I had, he sort of left, and then I had an instructor called Clive Parkinson, who was very good fighter on the circuits then. He stayed with us for quite a while, and then I had Humphrey Bruins, who came again from Birmingham, because we were in a small town called Corby, so they used to travel down to us. Yeah. But I think in the end, the club became just too small for us to be throwing out instructors all the time, so we were offered to go to Birmingham to have a lesson with Jeremy Yao. And that's when I first went there and had a lesson with Jeremy, and he just said, if you want to carry on training, you can. So that's my influence with Lau was. So then I used to travel to Birmingham to do my training and met the greats as we were talking about when we were there. As a kid, I remember walking down Temple Passage. It was a basement gym, right smack bang in the middle of Birmingham. And I remember walking down there, and I was standing around waiting for my lesson. And all the guys came down. They must have had a squad session, so we had Frank Lynch, Steve Babs, Neville Ray. These were all like characters that we don't, you know, like they didn't walk when they floated. Do you remember they came down? It was just great to see them. You're a young 15, 16-year-old guy seeing all your heroes in one place. It was fantastic times. Yeah, so
is that who influenced you then? Because you're well known for your love of sport fighting. I mean, there's more sides to it than just the sports. We'll talk about that in a bit. But who influenced you then? You know, if you wanted to be like someone, who was it?
It's really hard now, isn't it? I mean, you'll all be watching this video recording of us talking. We couldn't get anything. We didn't have the internet. We couldn't really research too much. If you talk to some of the old guys, they loved getting the books out, and I did that. I bought some books, but the magazine was the first thing I bought. I remember when I was really young on my holidays, I bought a magazine called Karate and Oriental Arts. And I remember opening it up then, and that's when my interest in the whole thing started. Not just Kung Fu, the martial arts, because it had, you know, articles about every single thing. And it's the first time I saw a picture of Bill Wallace sitting in the box splits and a leg in the air. And as again we were talking about earlier, I like doers. Talkers are great, but when you're young you need doers. You need to see people. Pictures inspired you. And then eventually when you got to see them actually move, it was incredible really, because you only ever got images. And then they started to do a magazine called VMA, and they used to travel around to do, when people do courses in England, and they used to do tournament clips at the end. And then you actually got to see these people move, but some are rubbish. Some you'd think, I'm looking, you think, I thought I'd be a bit quicker than that, you know, and some lived up to expectations.
So he lived up to the expectation. I'm going to guess Babs was definitely.
Steve Babs was great. Again, we, you know, as a young lad, I hitched over to Birmingham for where I lived to watch Babsy fight in a full contact fight with a guy called Carl Beeman. And I loved it. Sat there and watched the fight. We won. Then I had to hitch home again afterwards. You know what I mean? No money in my pocket.
With his shiny pants.
With my shiny pants. I spent all my money, all my training fell on a pair of shiny pants. Now I'm embarrassed to tell you this. And then I was ridiculed when I got back to Corby because I was the first person to have a pair of red contact pants. It just wasn't acceptable. You're an outcast, man.
Everybody's got them now, though.
You're an outcast. It was a white or black or nothing else. That's the way it was.
Shiny.
Yeah, shiny.
It's loved it either way. So in your competition world, you fought all around the world, didn't you? Everywhere.
Yeah, I was lucky.
Is that what you wanted to get involved? Is that you know, when I started martial arts, it was for the self-defence side. Was yours purely to get into competitions?
No, we were told to do it.
Okay.
Quite honestly, we were at our club training. Alex Barron was with us because we were like, you know, we always did everything together more or less. I think it was support, to be quite frank. And they just said, look, there's a coach picking you up at this road, at this time, be there when you kick. That was it. You didn't have an option. Do you know what I mean?
Do you remember your first fight then?
Yeah, yeah, vividly, yeah. From the ground looking to the ceiling. But, I remember that ceiling well. But no, so we got this coach and we were whizzed off. It was like a magical mist. I didn't even know where I was going. So I won the coach of all these other guys from varying loud clubs. We just said, where are we off to? West Brom. I went, okay, fair enough. So we ended up at this tournament, and I was about 17 then, I suppose. I've always been quite tall. And again, we were told I was in the adult category. I was stuck in the adults. And it was pretty much open weight as well, to be fair. There wasn't an awful lot of like minus 55s, minus, it was just all everything together, belt order or height order or whatever. And I fought and got snotted, and that's when that first bend and kink in the nose started. So as a, you know, 16 and a half, 17-year-old, I ended up being pushed off that bus, going home with a, and taking that to my mum, you know.
And you still stuck with it?
Loved it. At the end of it, it's like there's something about when you're all getting battered, it doesn't really make any difference. You all used to go as a group, you all used to go, I try and tell my lads this, you all used to go, nowadays, if people don't walk away from a competition or feeling they've got a trophy or feeling they've done well, they seem to feel they haven't succeeded. Where to me, I think, losing is more important than winning. I know that sounds a bit naff, it's easy to say when you got past it, but losing is the biggest learning curve you ever get.
It is. Past mistakes.
Past mistakes, then you learn, you know, so I went to loads of comps, and lost loads, and then gradually you start to...
What did you learn on that first loss? How to keep your guard up?
That was one of them, and do you know, I know it sounds really naff, but it was a black sash, and you didn't see black sashes. You hardly saw black belts. You'll understand what I'm saying in this. So we used to walk around, the loud black sash was really distinctive, you know, with the red writing on it, Chinese writing. And there was one there that was almost like, whoa, you gravitated to the sash. And I was lucky enough to fight the geezer in the sash. And he actually, in a strange way, lived up to the sash because he snotted me with a roundhouse kick. Yeah. And I wouldn't have liked it any other way, if that makes sense. How could you go over and say, well, I beat a black sash? It shouldn't happen. Can't happen, could it, really?
You see, you needed to get beat then in the first class,
yeah.
otherwise you probably never would have gone.
And you bragging rights were there, weren't they? I got beaten by a black sash. They float, mate. They don't walk. Black sashes float.
Yes. So, in your competition then, where have you fought? I mean, you'd be there for hours, you've fought all over the world, haven't you? Out of all of them, which competitions stood out in your mind, you know, if you went back through all of them?
The ones abroad, I think, to me, Joe Tierney's a good friend of mine. Yes. And at the time, he invited me to fight with Chris Williams, actually, on his Shorai squad that were going over to Canada to fight in Jean Frenet's Canadian Open, which is a massive tournament, massive, you know, way past anything we'd experienced before in the 80s. And again, these are tournaments where you're talking thousands of competitors. So I tagged along with Joe and we went across to Quebec. and we stayed there, and we fought in Jean Finette's tournament, and it was a real eye-opener to us. It's actually coming across here now, but at the time we were fighting individuals. A full body swept to the guy I was fighting, and then we were always taught to stamp on them afterwards, and that was me disqualified in one foul swoop. So I travelled all the way over, and I was disqualified. And as the day went on, I sort of, after feeling hard done by, as you do, a crocking technique, and, the guy was still back. But as you're wondering, the contact, because of litigation over there, the contact was so light, and this is what happened. It started to dilute the level. In England at the time, you could throw anything. It was just power was God, really, and that was it. It was all about Ippon Mazzari, good, clean, strong points. Over there, it was completely different. We should have seen what was coming, really. That was Canada, and I loved it, and until to this day, I thank Joe for that experience. And then the next time I fought in Holland, went over with the Warriors team. We just fought, Warriors had been sort of got together, and we all decided to go over to Holland. So it was a full squad, really. Joe, Chris Williams, Bob, Tony, we all went over there and we fought a big tournament there. And I always remember, I know sometimes it's the quality of fight and sometimes it's the venues that really, you go, whoa. Yeah. When we're used to fighting in little church halls and dusty sports centres, to fight in some places where just a whole wall of TV screens, and you look around and it's all there. It was fantastic, raised area. It was one of the best venues I've ever fought in, and I fought the Dutch, European and World Wado Karate champion. He was a big guy as well. And the night before, you'll love this one, right, we go straight. And the night before, they took us out for a meal. But what he didn't tell us was you had to sit across from the person you were going to fight.
Alright.
Oh, that's nice, isn't it? Hang on a second. So I get a man mountain coming in, sitting across from me, And I'm thinking, we were supposed to make small talk, So, and Joe will tell you this one. So in the end, Joe's like this, Bob's at the other end of the table, and we all just went, so we're sitting there, they all sat down, and they're looking at us, and we all just went, and we all just got up and walked off and we went to the restaurant there by ourselves. So we'll see you the next day. Not having this, So that started a bit of a war, really. Earl Blythe was the guy that invited us over. In fact, he was at the awards one time. Lovely guy. And he had some great, talented Dutch fighters. And that was just a good, hard tournament. Get back to the UK ones, I suppose for me the top one I fought in was the Clash. The very first Clash.
I love the Clashes.
The very, very first one.
It was a good show, wasn't it?
Fantastic.
It was
we didn't have shows.
Entertainment and everything for them ones. I remember the early days. I still love them. They are fantastic.
But they'd be totally headbutting people. It was just.
I remember one. Which one was it? Where they're walking off, they fell over, and they're getting back on them. Looks all fine, and then turns and takes that cheeky little thing. Go on, man!
I tell you what it was.
It was
theatre, wasn't it?
It was like
WWF.
Mixed martial arts.
That's it.
It was a show.
And to be asked, at the time we were all fighting around the squad, around the circuit, and Bob just said, look, turn up here. This is exactly how it happened. Turn up here. So what we're doing, he said, you're fighting a tournament. I said, all right, fine. So we get there, and he's got these yellow suits out of Enter the Dragon, We all just went, no, you're having a laugh. No, he said, we're all wearing yellow. Oh, no. So we're all dressed up like, Gaelic Dev, whatever. And then across from there was possibly one of the best teams in the country, if not the world at the time, was the TAGB. Which had Kenny Walton, Kim Stones, Ron Sergiu, Jackson White.
So you didn't know who you was fighting on that day?
We did know, and that was when the nerves kicked in. Because about a week before, it was all good in the mags, so we had to do a little bit of PR for it. And really that's when I think that was the hardest one for me, because normally you go to a tournament, you fight, and you're anonymous, aren't you? Like you said, there's no camera phones, you get a bad day, This was going to be recorded, it was splashed across the magazine, for about a month. It was the first time I ever thought, oh no, and every night it flipped through your brain. Really, the Thai boxers for years have been doing shows, and the full contact guys, but the points guys had never done one. So this was the first sort of one of these type of events. And he sold, there was something like 2,000 people there. It was the biggest one they ever did, and it was great fun. And that was 25 years ago.
Oh, it's the last one we sat before.
We sat next to each other, They're still good fun. And some of the guys, kids are now fighting on Jackson White's sons on it and stuff like it's just.
Talking to kids, guys, your son's fighting at the moment, isn't he?
Oh, yeah.
So, what's it like watching your son fight? Do you wish you could be in the ring with him, or is it a relaxing time for you? Because I've watched my son fight a few times. I'm on the edge of the seat a little bit more than I am with some other students. So, what's it like watching your son fight?
Well, you know, my wife told me if anything happens to him, just to keep driving.
Don't come back.
It's all done. So with that in my ears, I sort of try and sort of look at it. No, it's good. I tell you what it is, and I think you'll agree for your lad. It's controlled violence, isn't it, really? That's exactly what we do. It's controlled violence. You've got a referee, you've got a doctor, you've got me in your corner. I want my son to be able to protect himself in this violent world we live in, and it is the truth, and it's getting worse.
Yes, yes,
so if I can stick him into an environment where I know it will test him and challenge him, then that's my job as a dad, to be quite frank. I know a lot of people will go, no, it's not, but it is, okay? It is. So if he comes away from it and he's learned from it and he's had a few lumps and bumps, but he's still got a pulse, which thankfully all the times he has.
It's not to babysit them, is it? It's that they can cope in the real world.
Yeah, it's a rehearsal, isn't it, really?
It is.
And you know, he knows that, and at the end of it, the only one thing he did say to me one time, and he'll kill me for this one, he said, because one time he said, yeah, sure, forgive me.
Kill him, Sean.
But he said at the end, we always had this pact now, whenever he finishes fighting, I smile. Because the first time he fought, he turned around my face, but I've always got a stern face. Yeah. And he thought it was a critique or a criticism of his fight. So from now, I just smile.
Good luck.
And I always say to whoever comes, win or lose, you're done.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
That's brilliant. Yeah. See, the same thing with my son. I know what it's like out there. The job that I did.
Exactly.
So I wanted to make sure he was protected.
Yeah.
From to where I can sleep at night if he's walking around on his own.
Yeah.
That's cracking. Right, next questions that we've got. If we go away from the tournament world, but still staying in with it. If you've got brand new kids that are thinking of getting involved in martial arts and they want to go down the tournament scene, have you got any advice for them? You know.
Again, all things we talked about. There's no excuse. I don't think there's any excuse these days to be ignorant about the tournament scene. It's all out there. It's all on social media. It's all in magazines. You can do your research. You can look where you think you would like to go, what discipline you'd like to do.
Yes.
You know, you can maybe progress from one to another. If you want to do MMA, maybe try kickboxing first. So your stand-up game's good, then go in. But the most important thing is your guide, isn't it? I think, you know, people say location, don't they? Instructor, mate. Check out where you join has a reputation. If you're looking really for that sports side of what we do, then you should do your homework and find out the best club around you that has a reputation.
You can everywhere,
yeah, it's serious.
You don't have to travel 600 miles anymore.
People don't know, do you now?
No, it's on your doorstep.
It's on your doorstep. You've got, without a shadow of a doubt, you've got people around you that are at world level. And I think you should check out the club, you should check the instructor's credentials, and you can do that quite easily by sticking in the search engine. It comes up everywhere now. Once you're comfortable with that, head to that. But take your time. It's not a race. Take your time.
Right, we're on quick fire questions right now. If you could fight anybody in your prime when you was in your prime, who would it be?
Again, all of you out there, I'm going to mention one name. There's loads I'd love to have fought, but there's one name, and we talked about him earlier. He is a legend in this sport, Steve Babs.
Yes.
Had a chance. We were fighting England versus Wales, and it was a select squad. Alfie Lewis, me, Joe, Chris Williams, again, the usual suspects for us facing the Welsh national team. At that particular point, Steve was living in Wales, and he was on the team. And you should have seen the sort of, you know, everybody was just interested in Steve Babs, which is a great sign, but with huge respect. And as again we said, you know, we all wanted to fight Steve, but nothing more than to say really that you had fought Steve Babs and you had a chance to be with him. And I told him this at the awards. I actually told him, I think it's important people relay these stories to the people at that time, because you go away and you're like, what did I affect any change? Did I influence anybody in my life? And every now and again somebody will come to me and say, you did this for me. And it's a nice feeling. For Steve, purely out of respect, I'd love to have fought him in his prime.
Beautiful. You see this, what you just said there at the end as well, that leads me into the next one. What's teaching done for you? You know, what do you love about teaching? There's a different aspect to it.
Yeah, again, I think pigeonholed with people, you know, it's either old school, points, semi-contact, this or that. I was forced into fighting, really, by my instructors. I never liked fighting. I said from word go, it wasn't for me, but what it did do, it made me conquer my demons. It made me stand on the edge of a mat. It made me wait to go on to fight. And I didn't turn and I didn't walk away. I did it. And every time I made a pact with myself. Every time somebody asked me, because I refused one tournament one time, and I went home that night and I couldn't sleep. I couldn't live with myself. I felt like I'd what the better word, bottled it really. And from then on, as soon as anybody ever said, Chris, as soon as he got I just yes. I didn't care when, where, what. I just say yeah.
It's easy to deal with the loss, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sleep at night and walk away.
Yeah, I couldn't walk away. At the end of the act, so for me, it made me test my ability as a person. It made me take losses and wins. But more importantly, the demons that come up when you fight, you know, are there. The people that are very good and you know are very good
fights that can...
Yeah, you can dodge them, you can duck them.
Yeah.
You could have gone to different tournaments because the heavyweight category was exceptionally good in those days. You could have went to another one and missed those, but could you sleep at night? Not really. So you just have to face it all.
What do you get from teaching?
Love it. I love teaching. I love telling them my boring stories. When I hold them in press up just for 5 minutes, they're right. Story time. And this again is an important thing. History. History. Tell people everything you've ever known about all the people you ever trained with and why you did it and how you did it. Because these things will die with you. There's some fantastic martial artists now that we now are getting older and they're passing away, and all those stories and all those myths go with them. To me, teaching is about a physical and also a mental approach to what you do. You should definitely teach your people well. You should have an understanding about your students. You should take time to educate them, and you should take time to guide them. And I think from that, then you're a good instructor, really.
So there is a word, dojo, that gets stuck around a lot, isn't there? Steve, we talked about it last month with Steve, and he said, you changed the word from dojo to just a port club.
Yeah.
Port standards. But that's easy for me to understand because they kind of again get pigeonholed. So what do you think makes a good club, and what makes a port club? Is there something you can put your finger on where you can say a good club is?
I think a good club is, the point being what you just said about Steve. I mean, that's the essence of this mag, isn't it? It's really about standards, really. That's what you're trying to promote through these interviews and through the articles you put in, about a standard of what you would expect the martial arts to be. But unfortunately, when people come into the martial arts, they don't understand, they don't have a set standard, they don't realise what's out there and what they're about to join. And most people join a club by location, don't they? At a sort of circle of maybe a mile, 2 mile walking distance, short driving distance. So really, to me, a club should be researched, really, shouldn't it? I mean, what's your views on it? What do you think?
Well, this is our fault. It's like when I'm doing my self-defence. I think we should be training the attackers to attack us properly. I think we should be educating the public about what a good club is. So it's the public educating the public what a good club is, because they could walk into anything. And I fell into the trap in my early days of training of believing, and it was wrong. It took me years to correct it. So I think getting more information out, which is what the magazine's for, the interviews, anybody can watch this, whether you're training or you're not. And it's like saying research.
Research.
It's so easy nowadays, isn't it?
As a parent, if you let your son or your daughter do something, if my daughter said, in fact, she knows going to ballet, you'd look, wouldn't you? Look, is this club any good? What do they do? What's the qualifications? What they are? But the martial arts world is such a weird world, isn't it? Full of veils and doors, and you don't really understand until you get into it what it's like.
It's not a one-trick pony.
No, it's not. But I think if you take the time to go down, and I always admire people actually sitting and watch a whole class. And some people just drop somebody off and then they shoot off again. Sit in, watch. What's the quality of the tuition that you get in?
Take a full interest.
Take a full interest in it. Talk to an instructor, and you can get you can get a gut feeling if somebody's good at what they do or not. And the most important thing to me, I think, is it's not a game. I don't want to go to a place where somebody's high-fiving me and all the rest of it. A martial arts club there's a clue in the title, it's a martial art. It should be disciplined, should be respected, should be accessible but not overly accessible. And you should do your time, and you should do, get to know the instructor. It should be a formal thing. Instructor-student relationship should be formal. It shouldn't be a friendship.
No, that's right. Now, coming up, closing it up, we're going to go on to the clubs that you run at the moment.
Yeah.
You started teaching, and I don't think you had hundreds of students.
No, not so.
But you certainly do now.
Well,
How did it grow naturally, or did you push it?
No, we didn't really. I like that question actually. It did go naturally. It was a natural progression, because it goes back to your first question really about about the days of teaching tournaments. To fight tournaments, you had to take weekends off. To take weekends off, you couldn't teach your clubs. So subsequently, your clubs actually suffered.
Yeah.
But then when you went to fight tournaments, you got a little bit of a reputation, and people would start to know who you were. And then your clubs would start to grow. So then you could advertise yourself as X, Y, and Z. But it actually did mean something to actually compete. It actually proved that your system or your style was actually worthy of it. And that's how Lau grew, because Lau would go out and fight anybody, anywhere.
Does what it says on the tin.
Exactly. Now, it's hard to believe, but in the old days, we'd go and open clubs, and you would get all the local club instructors would come down. So we would do sort of Q&A, and people would be, we'd like to ask about the club. And you could see them a mile away, because everyone's chewing the wasp at the top. Do you know what I mean? Like giving you the evil glare. Then some of them would then come down and try and challenge you. Now, I'm not talking fist of fury here, we're not talking, but they would just come down and they would be a bit arrogant during a class, and they would question when you're doing techniques, which inevitably would turn into the sparring sessions. It was you either performed or you didn't perform, and I'm glad to say 99.9% of the time, we could change people's views, let's just say. But I mean, that's what it was like. So basically I had to hone my clubs through competition. Then eventually, as our reputation grew, and as you teach for longer, you produce a black belt. That black belt hopefully is good. This is why you can't rush things, isn't it? That's why how can you give somebody a black belt and then they open the club? They can't rush. We have a lineage. We have, like, there's me, senior instructors, they produce those. You have a family tree.
You can't push it.
So to me, our clubs grew naturally. There's about 25 now, but they would not have grown if it wasn't for the fact of the quality of my instructors.
Your tournament success helped your clubs then, didn't it?
It initially, I think.
Yeah.
And then obviously I went into, coaching for England, and the WKA and all of that side helped as well. But I personally think if you ask people when they come into your club why do you want to train, what would you say is the number one reason?
They come out with the first straight away, get fit.
That's it.
Self-fit, that's it. So people ask me about, what do you teach? I go, well, do you know martial arts? I don't. Well, does it matter what I tell you? Just turn up and come and train. I can say karate, but do you know what karate is? I can say jiu-jitsu, do you know what it is?
Yeah.
So yeah, they are. There is.
Don't you think you educate them in the end? They probably will get fit, but then they start to love it, don't they?
Behind the punches and the kicks is a whole bigger world.
Absolutely.
We all punch and kick, but what we try and help the students with, which is the same things you got when you started about the self-discovery, making sure you can sleep at night.
Yeah.
It's all helping. To wrap it up, okay, we've gone through the good clubs, we've gone through that. I realise when we got you down for a seminar at our place, you're not what I pigeonholed you. I watched you for years on the videos, and you're a fighter on the scene. But we started doing a few little bits on self-defence, and you know your stuff. This is why the intro clip that we put on wasn't worth any sparring on. So you just got a whole big box of tricks, haven't you? For your martial arts, it's not purely for the tournament scene.
No.
Your self-defence is up to date also.
I think you go for I think you definitely, the whole thing about your white belt, you go full circle and you come to I do think, my son, this is interesting, so I took my son training with me one day, and we were in the car, and I said to him, Sean, we go in there tonight, he said, what are we doing? I said, these are your options, so we can either do knife work, because I love weapons, so knife work, because I've trained with Bob Breen, so some knife work, or some groundwork. And he went, groundwork. I went, they love weapons, Sean, they love them, they love me. He went, groundwork. So we went in, I was starting the class, I thought, give it a shot, and I said, right, everybody who'd like to do groundwork tonight, put your hands up, or we can do knife. Groundwork, there's about one person who wants to do knife, so I had to look at the back of the room, and I saw his face, and I thought, right, okay, it's true. And what my point is, there's various sections of what you do. You young people want to be doing the sports side of things, don't they? They do, they want to be doing, they want to be... And then they'll do the knife work, they'll do the weapons, they'll do the groundwork with you, but inherently when you're young, you want to do that. So I've gone through my stages of, I wanted to find competitions, then I realised really it doesn't work anywhere else apart from in competitions. So then I started to box, and I taught myself to box properly down at Manchester YMCA. Then I got somebody who could teach me weapons properly, and gradually put a package together. And then I looked at all the guys that were doing great self-defence, like Gary Spires. He was a big influence. Gary was very practical in what he did. And I looked at all the people who were doing all of those things, and I put a package together of what I wanted my association to do. I think a martial art should be completely rounded.
Offer everything.
Yeah, but it takes time to get that circle.
Yeah.
So I don't criticise youngsters that want to fight all the time. I don't, because you've got to get it out of your system. Yeah. But eventually you will.
Talking about your system, you won your bloods up then, didn't you, from the competing world?
Yeah.
It was easy.
Happy day. No. Happy day if I had to stand on the sideline again thinking, here we go. No, to be fair, I was bored. Yeah, I think you know yourself.
Yes.
And you come to the end. It's maybe a wrong word, bored. I think in your mind you
There's
just
nothing left to learn.
Exactly, or prove.
Yeah.
And I thoroughly enjoyed every minute of it. I really did. But I thought now I need to move on. But I'll be honest, for about the first year, and I've got one of my instructors now. Well, two of them are coming towards their retirement. Rick Olsop, who you've met, and Mike Eade. They're both world champions in their own right. Now Rick's retired already, and we were standing at a tournament recently, and we were talking. I could just see his movements, and I said, "You're struggling with this, aren't you?" Of course, when his category came over, we went and looked at his category, and that's what you do, is think, would I have fought? What have I missed? But at the end, it took about a year, and I stopped twitching. And I know it's cliche, but I truly and thoroughly now enjoy watching my guys compete and fight, and looking after them, making sure it's all fair.
Guiding them.
I'm still in the environment of beating the old guys, so I still get that buzz. But I did my section, and I think there's nothing worse than when these old fighters go, if I came back, no you wouldn't. It's a different game. No you wouldn't. It's a different game now. My kid, as I said this before, you know, we stuck a post up one time on Facebook. My kid is like a Formula 1 car, and I'm like a transit van. Do you know what I mean? The speed they move at, the way they move is completely different to the way we fought as points fighters. We were in Bomazari very static because we're fighting karate guys all the time. Now the game is completely morphed into a completely different game. So don't do a disservice to these young guys. They are what they are now, and you were what you were then.
Yeah, different times.
Yeah, different times for people.
Well, I love watching you on the tournament scene again. Oh, last one before we finish. You did your little last year seminars going around. We got you for your charity event. How much did you manage to raise?
In total, at the moment.
Are you still doing it?
Still doing them.
So people can still ring you up and get you to their place for a seminar, and all the money's donated.
I love this man.
For a charity, okay? So if you're not ringing him up and his phone's not busy, you should stop watching this right now.
You should hang your head.
Hang your head down. We had him down, you know, we didn't fill hundreds of people in the room, the right people came.
Great time.
We handed a lot of money over to charity for it. And you know, it's a worthy cause and it's beneficial. You get Mr. Boughey for free.
It's free, I'll come down. I'll give it my plug now. It's free.
Do it.
I pay my own transport.
You did.
I don't need to have accommodation. I don't need feeding. I don't need anything.
Cup of coffee.
And I've always said this, and this is the truth no matter. There's no hidden extras. Because we've had, and I'm saying no names, we've had instructors down for courses, and by the time I paid their expenses, it was more than I was ever. This is what it's. I'm not like it's transparent. You give your time, and you should give your time free. And if that's the way it is, then you can book me through Russ Jarmesty.
Book him.
He's now my agent.
As soon as it starts with a B. Book him. And again, it's for charity, so guys, it's worthwhile. Well, is there anything you want to tell to the viewers before we wrap this up then? I mean, we've gone through your martial arts, your fighting career, your history, your teaching. Is there like any last little messages for people that are going to start? You might want to give them a tip.
I've met some really nice guys today, down talking today. I just think, pick the brains. If you have people around you that have been in this game for a long time, and they're decent people, and they're not lecturing you about how things used to be, and that's what old people tend to do, they'll lecture you about it. But if it was me and I had my time again, I would have loved to have sat with some of the old-time great martial artists and just asked advice.
More questions.
More questions, more advice. Just a bit more. Yeah. Like, why did you never win anything, Con? Well, I see you fight. No, varying things. I would just say, look, you know, what's your advice about how do I start my tournament career? And trust me, even if you pick a fraction of their brain, of a massive knowledge, it's worth it.
It is.
But thanks for having me out.
No, but hey, don't think you're going as soon as we finish this. So guys, we've got one other thing that we're going to do. It's like a Top Gear. They have the stick on the laps to see all the people that come down and do the interviews. Well, I've got a punch ball machine in there. Okay, so we've decided to do, we're going to do a score lead of the top scores on the punch ball machine. See if anyone can beat my little sprog over there. But guys, until next month issue, okay, I hope you enjoyed this interview. I definitely did, okay? And we will see you soon, and let's see what score Mr. Boughey gets on the machine, okay? Thanks a lot. Oh, instead of it being a wet lap, it's an injury lap.
Injury lap.
We've got hooks.
Big eye.
Guys, thanks again, and we'll see you next month, okay? Thank you. Okay, so we've got the Guardians, a new little part for it, and it's the star in a reasonably priced glove. So we've got Mr. Boughey. Let's see what numbers we get.
Take deep down the window here, guys. We're told it's anything and everything to get power.
Bang it. Go one. Oh, that was a stop. That's a stonker. 7. 88. 794. 794. Go 2. Come on, what you waiting for? 3, 4, 5, 7. Oh, last chance, Mr. Boughey. Reasonably priced glove. Summon up the warrior. Yes. 7, 9. that's the number to beat. Okay, 799. Thank you.
Thank you.